Hey there, this is Ranjit, and in this video we'll be doing the review for Samsung Galaxy Core Prime, which is an entry-level Android device by Samsung. And I've been testing this device for the last couple of days, and it's a pretty interesting device. It sports I would say very mediocre specs. If you look at the screen, it sports a 4.5-inch screen with a resolution of just 480 by 800 pixels. That comes to low PPI of 210, but it's a decent screen. I would say it's not the best. Again, it's a budget-oriented device. So overall, if you look straight, the screen quality is decent. But if you start tilting it, then it starts to fade away. Another thing is that it has very few sensors on it. It does not have even an auto brightness sensor. But I even tested this device outdoors in direct sunlight. And if I crank up the brightness, even in direct sunlight, the screen was legible. So that's a nice thing. Let me now first give you a physical overview, then we'll continue. On the top, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, and this is just plastic. It looks like metal, but it's not metal, it's just plastic. We have the power on off button, indent to open the back cover. I'll show you that a bit later. Moving further down, we have the micro USB slot that'll be used for charging the device, the main microphone, and on this end, we have the volume rockers. Moving towards the back, we have the opening for the speaker. The rear facing camera is a 5-megapixel shooter with LED flash, Samsung branding and nothing else. The back cover can be opened. It reveals the 2000 milliamp hour battery. We also have a micro SD card slot and the 2 SIM card slot. This is a dual SIM device. Moving towards the front, we have a front-facing camera that's a 2-megapixel shooter, and we have some sensors, but again, very few sensors are there on this device. And this is the earpiece. The good thing is that the cellular call quality on this device was very good. And this is a 2G and 3G enabled device. It does not have 4G support, and it has that 4.5-inch screen. And on the bottom, it's very familiar. We have the button for multitasking. The center is the home button, and we have a dedicated back button. Again, one thing to note is that these buttons are not backlit. Now let's look at the Android version that comes with this device. Again, we have these quick toggles, and again, Samsung has provided a lot of options. As you can see, it even has ultra power saving mode. But let's look at the settings, and if we go to about the device, as you can see, it runs on the Android version 4.4.4. that is KitKat. So we are getting KitKat out of the box. That's nice. And regarding internal storage, it has 8 gigs, but out of that you just get about 5 odd GB. And as I told you, we also have a micro SD card slot on this device. So let's look at it, and as you can see, I have installed a lot of apps. The space that I have available is 2.83 GB, and I've added a 32 GB SD card. But one thing to note is that as it's Android KitKat, the entire app cannot be moved to the SD card. Part of the app can be moved, but again, you can definitely move the videos, pictures, etc. to the SD card. This device does not have USB OTG support, by the way. Now, as we are connected to my Wi-Fi network, let's also fire up the browser. The Chrome as well as the default Samsung browser installed, but instead of the Wi-Fi, let me switch off the Wi-Fi. Let's use the cellular connection and let it latch on to my 3G connection. And as you can see, it's showing H+, that means it's connected to my 3G connection. Let's fire up the browser. And this is on 3G. This is Aircel 3G that I'm using. Again, as you can see, it's loading it very quickly. Even on 3G, the performance was very good. Let's move to the desktop version. Again, as you can see, it loads the web pages actually pretty well, even on the 3G connection. Let's open up one of the random stories like this, whatever. Again, as you can see, it loads it pretty well. So even on a cellular connection, performance was pretty good over 3G. Also, while making cellular calls, as I mentioned, the call clarity was pretty good. Let me also show you the speaker phone performance. And let's put it on speaker. I'll maximize the volume.
Your current prepaid account balance is 233.
As you can see, even the speakerphone performance was pretty decent, I would say. Let's talk about the pricing of this device. On the box, the price quoted was 11,300, but in many of the online stores and local stores, it is selling between 9,100 to 9,500. And I do feel it's slightly on the higher side because we now have a lot more devices at that price point. But let's continue. Now moving towards the internals, here it is very interesting. Samsung says that it's powered by a quad core processor. Yes, it's powered by a quad core processor, but it's based on a Spectrum SoC, which has a 1.2 gigahertz quad core processor, and the GPU is the Mali 400 GPU, and this is a normal 32-bit processor based on the ARM Cortex A7 architecture. And regarding RAM, it has 1 gig of RAM. So again, decent I would say spec, nothing out of the box. One thing I do not like is that Samsung has skimped on a lot of sensors. We just have the basic sensors. For example, if I show you CPU Z, let me go to the sensors. As you can see, we just have the screen orientation sensor, the proximity sensor. That's it. These are the basic sensors that we have. We do not even have a compass sensor. So if you use applications like compass, etc., as you can see, they do not work at all. So very few sensors, but fortunately it has the proximity sensor. So whenever you take a call, the screen just goes away. That's a nice thing. Also in the multi-touch points, it just has 2 multi-touch points. And now if we talk about the general performance of this phone, it runs Samsung custom UI that is known as TouchWiz, and surprisingly it runs TouchWiz pretty well, I would say. Yes, there is some minor lag at times, but for the most part the performance was decent, I would say, for a budget oriented device. So it runs the TouchWiz UI pretty well in my opinion. Also the microphone performance was pretty good. Let's test Google Now with it. What's the weather like? Again, I'm on 3G, not on my Wi-Fi.
It's 25 degrees with haze in Hyderabad.
So as you can see, the performance was pretty good. Let's switch back to my Wi-Fi connection. And let's now look at the camera performance. The rear-facing camera is a 5 megapixel shooter, and the front-facing camera is actually a 2 megapixel shooter. And the camera performance, okay, I would say. Again, it's a pretty basic. This is the front-facing camera. Let's switch to the rear-facing camera. Again, as I told you, the viewing angles are not the best. If you tilt too much, it just quickly fades away. And the camera is basic, and it does have quite a few modes like the beauty face, panorama, best photo, and continuous shot. And it also has the night mode. It also has a flash, and these are the further settings. In terms of video, the maximum resolution it can shoot is just 720p HD, not 1080p. But if we move to the front facing camera, for example, I'm on the front facing camera, the video goes down to 640 by 480. So that's a little bit sad in my opinion. But for pictures, it can shoot pictures from the front facing camera at 2 megapixels. Again, regarding the rear facing camera, if you want the pictures in widescreen mode, it goes down to 3.9 megapixel. In 4:3, it takes up to 5 megapixel. Now I'll show you some of the sample shots that I've taken with this device so that you can judge the performance of the camera. So as you can see, the camera performance is a mixed bag. In outdoor lighting conditions, the camera performs pretty decently, I would say. But when we move to indoor shots and low lighting conditions, then yes, it certainly struggles. But again, if we start comparing it with other cameras in this price range, I would certainly say that the camera performance was pretty decent. Now, if we talk about the battery is a 2000 milliamp hour battery. It's a replaceable battery, and I did all my testing with just a single SIM. And with a single SIM, the battery life was decent, I would say. It was easily lasting me for a full working day without any issues. Now, if we move to gaming also, here also I had some decent experience with this device. I played quite a few games like Sonic Dash, even Dead Trigger and Asphalt 8. It could run the Sonic Dash and Dead Trigger pretty well, and also Asphalt 8 pretty decently at the medium graphics settings, which I would say is pretty decent for this device. So overall, what do I feel about this Samsung Galaxy Core Prime? Samsung has priced this device in India for around 9,500 or so, and purely looking at that price point, I would say this device is priced slightly on the higher side, because now at that pricing you can get a lot better handset. For example, we have the Xiaomi Redmi Note and even the Zenfone 5 series, which I feel are much better device. Even the Moto G the first generation was available for around 9,000, and I feel all these devices are way more superior compared to this Galaxy Core Prime. If only the pricing of this device can fall down to around 7,500 or so, and you're not comfortable with other brands and specifically are looking for a Samsung device, then you can have a look at this device. I hope that you found this video review helpful. If you found it helpful, I'll appreciate if you can click the like button, and I've also posted several other videos on the Galaxy Core Prime, so make sure you check them out. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. This is Ranjit, and I hope to see you in my next video.